Hello there! In today's video I want to compare the latest image to 3D model generators. So I picked 4 common models out there and I wanted to know how they can be used for industrial design workflows. So can we take a sketch or a render of a model that we generated, that we made, that we developed, throw it in one of these models and get a 3D model that we can actually work with, elaborate on, iterate on with Blender, or just throw it straight to the printer and get like a simple 3D print of our first initial idea without having to model everything cleanly in SolidWorks or Rhino or wherever. So if you're curious which model performed best, stick around, let's have a look together, let's go. In order to give you a comparison, I chose to use the Trellis 2 service, where they offer basically image to 3D generation models in one platform instead of having to buy a premium upgrade on all these different services. But I will also show you the results of the free generation tools that these services provide. But just for you to see, the models that I will be comparing is Trellis 2, Hunyuan 3D, Meshy, Tripo, and Hyper 3D Rodin. And this is the reference image that I will be using in order to create my models. And I chose this image specifically because it is mostly a hard surface object, like we have really clear cut edges. It's rather simple in its base shape, but it's not just an extrusion, right? There is some tension surfaces and some interesting details that I really want to look at for the generation. Like for example, this chamfered edge around the display. Then we also have some detail in the foot area here. I mean, this image is AI generated, right? But still, I think it's quite good to use as a reference. And I also added in post-processing these venting patterns here, also in order to see how the models work with these details, how they translate these details and this kind of information. You have to also be careful with my insights because they're based on this image alone. So as I mentioned, I'm using the Trellis 2 service, and for this specific example, I use the pay-as-you-go variant where I just buy like for $10, I get like 400 credits. I can use all the models and just see how they are. The first model that I will be working with is the Hunyuan 3D versus version 3.1. It's one of the benefits of it is that you can run it locally, right? So it's like open source. You can free if you can just download it. You need GPU and stuff. And here are the other relevant information. So that's the cool part about it. It doesn't cost anything, and yet it's quite sophisticated or comparable to the other pay-to-use models out there. So all right, let's just go ahead. I drop in the model, and this is the output with texture already applied. So it did indeed translate the venting pattern, but also created a hole in the bottom, which is interesting. It's not depicted on the image, right? So how should it know? Overall, I think it looks quite all right. The venting pattern, not so much. But the general overall shape does seem representable, first impression wise. And the next model that I'm trying is the Tripo. This one is supposed to be one of the fastest ones with consistent 3D generation, right? So it's not for the mostly complex things, but it's really quick for iterating fast also. And you can decide if you want to use quartz or triangular mesh geometry. This is the Tripo interface. Here I just basically got some free credits, but I'm also limited to the free versions and stuff. I use the same image. None of these models is something that I use on a daily basis, which is also potentially why I don't get to use them to their max. But I think it's also interesting and relevant to figure out like which of them is a plug and play software that you don't have to learn like hugely and dramatic. All right, we already see like a point cloud from Tripo. This looks worse than what we saw from Hunyuan, I think. Then I go to the Tripo, the paid one, right, where I have the credits for, and this is how it looks. So it has a closed bottom. The top surface has indentation. I think that's interesting because maybe it read the reflection to be geometry. The venting pattern looks better than we had with Hunyuan, I would say. Overall, I think this is a pretty solid geometry for a first upload. Much better than the free version. Also with the free, you usually cannot download the geometry. That's like usually a premium feature for most of these models. The next one is Meshy. This is one of the industry standards not, but like one of the ones that made splashes very early on. It's really focused in the image to 3D and mostly used for game assets, polygons, all the way up to 300,000. So this is the Meshy interface. Again, this is just the free one where I got some credits just for basically signing up. I use the same image. It's still Meshy 6, so the model is the same, but all the, let's say, multi-view, the pose, the fine details of the settings, I cannot alter as much. So we have more than 500,000 polygons here. To me, the quality looks pretty bad, very jagged edges, right? Even though the bottom surface could be super clean and straight. Also, the rest looks very rugged, low poly, even though the poly count is actually not that low. And yeah, overall, I think this is not the best result. Again, the reflection seems to have created some geometry, but also here, I cannot do any downloads with the free version, right? I'd say this is one of the worst results so far. But let's see how we do with the paid version. So I don't do a lot of refinement with the settings, but just because I don't do any of these setting adjustments for the other ones as well. But here it hallucinated the backside with some connection and failed to do the venting pattern as well. It still looks very jagged everywhere, but the bottom looks better than it did before with the free plan. All in all, still, I would say not the best result. All right, now Hyper 3D Rodin. So this one is supposed to be like for really clean topology, like the preferred option with proper UVs, optimized poly counts. So this is the free plan version of Rodin. I just upload my image and generate my model. I go for the high because it says it's better for hard surface workflows, which is what I still would say this is. All right, so here what we see is basically the result with a, what is it? It's not the normal map. It's like this rainbow style representation of the model. I think also looks very clean, the bottom, the front, very symmetric. It's the first one I think that didn't mess up the top. It's just a straight planar surface at the top. Overall, it just looks pretty good to me. And now you can still go on in the workflow, ask it to also provide you with the material, and then go further with what kind of export do you want, what kind of file type should it be, and do you want to export the shaders and PBR as well or not. So these options are all available once you pay the premium. So here we see the model in its mesh representation. It looks a little bit worse. Now you also see the quads and how they make some of the edges a little bit vague, less sharp and straight. But again, you can just go through the rest of it, but in order to download all the valid types, you have to get like a premium account. If we look at it in the Trellis 2 interface, I upload the same image again, right? I don't mess with the settings. So this is also why it came out with triangles instead of quads this time. Also did some funky stuff in the back. Overall, I think it doesn't look all that great, to be honest. The top edge looks very broken and irregular. The bottom is fine, I think. The venting pattern is a complete chaos. And yeah, the top surface, the reflection just messed it up, I guess, for most of these models. So I was expecting a lot from this one because it was supposed to have high quality and clean topology, right? What I also tried now with this model specifically is to use the sketch image, not like a rendered one. So I can actually go through the workflow much faster before I even render things out, just using the sketched image, but it didn't work. Or at least the result was not that great. Then I went on with the Trellis 2, but I tried it twice and it failed me every single time and still took my credits. So as far as my experience goes, it's not a recommendation for the Trellis. I cannot say anything about the quality of the mesh because it just didn't work. And now I want you to have a look at all these options next to each other, right? On the right, we have the image. So the first one that we see is the Rodin mesh. Looks quite all right, I would say. Actually, the top's a little bit indented. We have some weird display. Then we have the Hunyuan version, which is the free one, right, that you can run locally. I think it's very detailed. Try to consider every little thing on the graphics, which is interesting. The handle pops out as it looks also from the image, but it doesn't have any bottom surface. So it looks better than I expected, but still has some major issues, I would say. And this is the image based on the sketch, right? The model based on the sketch reference. So this is really messed up. Another recommendation to use a sketch image without having it rendered as a reference. Then we have the Meshy model. I mean, you can see it already. Very rough mesh geometry, topology is not clean. I don't think this can be used for anything. Like, what's the purpose for these? As industrial designers, I would use this to have an idea, render it out quickly. With the Meshy, it doesn't work. Then we have Tripo. And that surprisingly was one of the fastest, right? But still, I think it works the best. Like super clean geometry, nothing crazy there. The bottom is functional, the edges are sharp. So this is a huge surprise. The thing at the top, I mean, it actually doesn't look that bad, but also that's the surface that you can fix more easily than the rest of the entire model, right? Because it's just planar. You can just basically remove top surface mesh and fill it with a different one. Now I also placed it inside Rhino just to have a better look at the mesh, and that's where I feel more welcome and home. So that's why I used it. And here you can see the difference, right? We have in this the Meshy one a complete mess, Tripo amazing, but also huge face count, polygon count. But it looks pretty good. And here is the overall comparison. So just in terms of numbers, right? So the Hunyuan 3D is free and local, right? You can just download it. And the model, based on this reference image, had 26,000 vertices and 36,000 faces. It was done in 4 minutes. So I rank it on place number 3 for this comparison. Then we have the Tripo model, version 2.5. At the moment, it costs $14 per month without any extra discounts or whatever. The model had almost 360,000 vertices, 500,000 faces. It was the fastest of these models. And I would say it was the best overall in output. So I can just drop in an image, get the output and throw it anywhere else to render it like in the background. Yeah, get like my first impressions, also in terms of scale, proportions, right? All these things that now I can really print the stuff out, use my 3D printer, take the model, print it, see how it works without having to model anything myself. So this is the use case, right? I want an image. I want to have it a 3D model that's as close as possible to my image. I don't really care that much about how clean the topology is, as long as it's represented properly, so I can print it in 3D or throw it into my software where I can render it manually to depict a situation or whatever impression that I want to showcase to my client potentially. Right, the third, this is the best overall. Then the third model was the Hyper 3D Rodin. The model had 256 vertices and also around 500,000 polygons, just a little below 2 minutes, and costs $30 per month at the moment. So it's twice as expensive as Tripo, for example. In terms of quality, I think it came in second. The fourth model that I was looking at was Meshy, right? Like very low poly count, just like Hunyuan, 26,000 vertices, 30,000 faces. So I think that might also be on me a little bit, that I didn't adjust the face count for all of them to be close, right? But anyways, it took 3 minutes and cost more than 3 minutes even, and cost $19 per month. So overall, I was not very satisfied with the output. So my suggestion would be, if you have money to spend, maybe we can try Tripo, see how it works. Does it work for your purposes? How do the prints look like? If you don't have any money, then there's basically only option left, right? And I think still all right results. If you like know your way around in Blender and you can fix a lot of geometry, then this might be the best option. But overall, Tripo did convince me here. All right, that was it. I hope now you got an impression and can compare the different models that are out there. I mean, there are even many more different models out there, right? So I just try to find the ones that are known, well used, and where there's more information available for me to have as a reference. I think it's interesting. Let me know if you made any different kind of experiences, or if you tried other images that look more organic potentially, if either of these models outperformed the others. So share your experiences with me, please. If you like what I do, follow, like, and subscribe for more. See you around. Thank you very much.